Welcome, everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, Italian arrow walk, and this is Are You a Psychic Medium or Empath? Where you drop a $10 donation and I tell you what abilities you have. This is unlimited tonight, so you can, in addition to that, or instead of that option, you can ask specific questions, such as, I always have this experience. What ability is this connected to? Okay. But anything really goes. If you want to do this privately or you want to gift this to someone else, you can go onto my website, Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium.com, and click on Intuitive Ability Assessment. Okay. Let's get into this. Who do we have first? Hello, Ezzy. Esmeralda Marie is joining us tonight. Yes, come sit. Okay, we have Abby. Abby like Hicks. Okay, perfect. So, Abby, what am I getting for you? Psychic, mostly. And then I'm seeing levels 1 to 3. You jumped with you're also empathic, and you jumped from levels 1 to 3. Ooh, so that was intense. Typically something has to happen in order for that to occur. I don't have time to look at everything today because these are brief, but it does look like there was some kind of massive change in your life. This may have felt fairly traumatic, and it may have affected your money, your career, okay, work stability in that arena. When you jump from empathic ability on the first and the second levels, those are the two lower levels, and you jump into the higher third and fourth level, the top tier there, you can experience some significant changes: sleep disturbances, irritable bowel, I can't prescribe or diagnose, ADHD-like symptoms. You can have like a lot of headaches, things like this. You could get misdiagnosed or diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, bouts of depression, but like these things can't be tracked. You're having these experiences, but you don't necessarily know what triggered it. Normally, when you have some type of disorder, or you're going through a very specific type of reaction to life that's dysregulating to your nervous system, we could tell why. Okay. But with intuitive intelligence, we can't tell why, because the scientific community, doctors, they refuse to address this at all. They want to act like it isn't real. Okay. That's how they're making their money. So, you could be feeling a little bit, since that occurred in the last couple years, like you jumped and you became a completely different person, because empathic ability affects the way you feel emotionally, energetically, physically, and mentally. When you hit the third and the fourth level of empathic ability, you develop telepathy. So you're hearing other people's thoughts. That could make you very paranoid at first. You develop electric person syndrome, which means that when you're really upset or you're super excited, you drain batteries, you blow out light bulbs, you shut down computer systems. Okay. It's a whole ability in energy manipulation that can look a lot like a disability if not dealt with properly. And when it sneaks up on you like that, like you just leveled up that much, it can definitely be dysregulating. Now, the other thing that we have going on with you is a lot of psychic ability. So this also increased in the last few years as you went through some significant changes. But when we talk about psychic ability, when I talk about it, I'm talking about clairvoyance, which is the ability to accurately predict the past, the present, and the future without being given any information. It's your third eye, so to speak, and it is sometimes looking, when it increases that much very quickly, a little bit like what I call Chihuahua syndrome, which can mean that you've gotten very nervous about things. Psychics who don't fully understand that that's what they are know when change is coming. They can feel almost like the other shoe is going to drop, or terrible foreboding. But it doesn't mean that something bad is coming. You could just be like winning the lottery, or meeting a really great new lover, or getting a job promotion. But the human body reads energy shifts the same way. And that is almost like an attack. Okay, so it can make us very nervous. But with this level of psychic and empathic ability, I would say that if you were to merge both of these, you would be great at medical intuitive work. You would be great at psychic surgery. You would be great at things like any type of paranormal work, although I don't see you leaning that way, but also things like criminal investigations, missing persons, remote viewing, finding lost objects. Okay, so what you can find in someone's body, you can also find in spaces, if that makes sense. Okay. You also have quite a lot of mediumistic abilities, but that's always been there. And I haven't seen a ridiculously huge shift with that. In the last year, there has been somewhat of an increase. So you combine these, you could do readings, you could do healings, you could really take this wherever you want. All right, we're going to move on to Eric Evans. Do I have any intuitive abilities? Okay, so Eric Evans. Intuitive ability assessment for Eric Evans. First thing coming up with you is mediumship and channeling. Some people channel and don't know they're channeling. Some people hear from spirit and never even recognize that's what it is. And one of the key indicators for someone like you who not only has a lot of mediumistic abilities and spirit communication going on, but actual channeling of messages through you, which is like top tier mediumship. One of the physical things you're going to want to watch for so you can control this a bit more, get educated, and be a determining factor in where it goes when it happens, is the ear ringing on the left side. So when the left ear rings, the grandmothers used to say left for love, right for spite. And that's fairly accurate. When the left ear rings, it is spirit trying to communicate. When the right ear is ringing, it's psychic ability kicking in, not necessarily spite, but it could be a warning. So pay attention, okay, to what's happening with that. But the left ear ringing for you is a direct link to what we call clairaudience. Clairaudient ability is the ability to hear a spirit in your head as though it is your own inner voice. So, and our native belief is that this increases in the bathroom. Congratulations. So you're literally never alone. So when you're like taking a shower, you're brushing your teeth, whatever, you are going to notice an increase in the ear ringing. You are going to notice a lot of breakthroughs in the shower. For example, like certain songs are popping in your head, answers and solutions, creative ideas, are popping in your head, and you may credit yourself for that, which is fine. But a lot of it is actually coming from spirit, because all of the bathroom elements, right? So this is our belief, is that the porcelain, the earth, the water, the mirrors are all conductors of communication with the other side. This can also be happening for you as you doze off or wake up when the veil gets lifted between the worlds. So this could also, if you're not noticing that the literal tinnitus, it could also be like a pressure, like when an airplane goes up or comes down. It could also sometimes, for some people, feel like a seashell is up to your ear or tingling. The channeling ability that you have here, it's like you are, and I can't prescribe or diagnose. There's a big difference between a memory block, right? Or being spaced out and having full on blackouts. Okay. So I'm not talking about blackouts when I say this, but there could be gaps in your. Could you take that down? Thank you. Because I don't want like my face blocked. So the whole time I'm doing the show, like Kim, I don't want it up there the whole time I'm doing the show if it's going to like be blocking my face in a disruption. Okay. So we could just pop up the name. And as soon as I say the name out loud, you can take it right back down. Thank you. So we are talking in channeling about an ability you have voluntarily and involuntarily where you may not remember chunks of time. You may not remember even what you said, but spirit is using you to give information out to other people. And it's a trance state. So you could say something that's very healing or supportive or a breakthrough comment. It could be anything randomly, but you're just like saying something and it's a breakthrough for that other person. And you don't even realize you just did it. All right. So this is something your grandmother had on mom's side of the family. You have some mediumistic abilities on dad's side as well. So you kind of got it, from both avenues here. I think that you also have quite a lot of psychic ability, and that's been brewing the last 2 to 3 years, and because of people. You may have met some people who were shady. You had to use a lot of your discernment. You had to polish up on your judgment, and you may have learned the hard way. Okay, by dismissing some people and being like, yeah, my psychic ability, my gut instinct, my intuition is telling me no, but I'm going to go ahead and like reel this person in or let them in or even chase after them. And bam, 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 you had to learn the hard way. So we do see an increase with psychic ability as well. What could you use all this for? Well, psychic mediumship readings. You could do tarot. You could do, the cat's looking at herself in the mirror. She's obsessed with her own image. Hilarious. You could, what else should he really be doing with this at this time? I feel like learn to perfect it in your own life first, okay? Before you focus it all on how to give it out to others. It's like you have so much additional information in your life if you look back at all the times you dismissed it, and then had to learn the hard way. But you have a lot of examples too on where like you said something or helped someone and you didn't even recognize that you did, and look back at all the stuff I said about like dozing off, waking up, clairaudience, the shower, the bathroom. Okay, start piecing this together for yourself and then see where it takes you. We are going to move on to CJG. CJG. What abilities do you have coming in here? Empathic on the highest out of the three. Okay, you've mostly got empathic ability going on here, and you hit a level 4 with your empathic ability. You were hovering at like a level 3 for years. I want to say the last 3 years, even 5 total. You were between that second and third, but it seems like in the last 6 months, you peaked into the 4th. So what happens during that shift is an increase in, let's say you don't want to talk to people, but no matter where you go, no matter what you're doing, whether it be online, it be out in public, running errands, it be at work, it doesn't matter where you are. Okay. On the bus, in the line at the bank. I mean, like people just come. Okay. So you become very magnetized, like you draw people in toward you, and you would have been attracting all along, because this even starts at the lower levels, people who are in desperate need of healing. So you attract random people who want to talk to you, be near you, engage with you in whatever way. And they are draining your energy because they need some type of healing in their life. You would attract on a more intimate level friends. You may have even been born into a family that's fairly dysfunctional or needs a lot of healing. Lovers, just be careful. Coworkers who want to latch onto you because they are draining you of your healing abilities. And that's always unfortunate. You know, as an empath, you really have to protect your energy. You can also attract a lot of liars. It's ridiculous. Now, you are a human bullshit detector. So that's a given, especially with the higher levels. And that being that you leveled up into the 4th level within the last 6 months, you may become even more of a human bullshit detector. Okay, which is great. We see a lot going on here, though, where you're hearing more of people's thoughts. Again, telepathy develops at the 3rd and the 4th level. You've had that for a while, but you are really accidentally over-absorbing other people's energy at this point, which means if they're physically ill, you're getting physically ill. If they're emotionally upset, I call it clear empathy, right? You could be emotionally upset. You may have felt increasingly obligated to overreach with people, hold space where you shouldn't, okay? Automatically give or allow yourself to be drained before you even realize it's happening, okay? So these are things that you're going to need to clear up, but I would say that with this ability, especially at the 4th level, you would do great with any type of energy work, energy healing, energy clearing, chakra realignments, even detox and removal, assisting people in removing blocks mentally, energetically, from past lives, whatever it is. So when people often aren't progressing in their life, or they're not healing, they don't really understand why. Maybe they are trying, but they don't understand why. Or let's even say they're on medications, but these medications aren't as effective as they could be. You could be the one who comes in and knocks out those blocks and obstacles. Okay, makes them more, I want to say, susceptible to the flow of energy. And you may also want to take a strong look at your psychic ability at this time, because you have increased a lot in knowing what's going to come next. Like, you're on fire. You basically have a thought pop in your head. Your right ear rings. You know, you have a certain feeling. You have a dream, AKA prophecy. And then it happens, not in weeks or months or years, but in minutes or like hours or even like days. Okay. You're really, hi, mama, come on over. You're really getting tight on this. All right. And with psychic ability for you, I would say, you know, you could be using that for readings, any type of readings, that'll work. And let's move on to another one. Mindy Michelle. Mindy Michelle. Could I get everyone to please stop for a second and give this video a thumbs up? Please do like it, give it a heart. Also, if you could drop a comment of any kind, it really does help me on the algorithm, and I would love to hear where you're tuning in from. So if you could drop your location, that would be great. Also, please do subscribe and share this video. All right, so we are going to do Mindy Michelle. Mindy Michelle, what intuitive abilities do you have? A lot of mediumship. Ooh, which side of the family is this? Your dad's? Holy shnikes. You have a grandmother, okay? You have a grandmother on dad's side of the family who was like, I mean, wicked intuitive intelligence here. She was probably one of those grandmas that was faking it and pretending that she was like Catholic or whatever religion, you know what I mean, your family is subscribed to. But she was playing card games. Now, the grandmothers who played card games, okay, they were a witchy bunch. That's not what they were doing. I'm not saying they were never playing rummy or whatever, but most of the time there was no one else allowed there but their girlfriends, and they were doing readings. That's why you see some tarot readers still using a deck of cards, meaning playing cards, okay, instead of tarot decks, because they had to hide it. And she had every ability that there was. She was also given by her grandmother what looks like instruction on herbs and oils and burning. I don't think this is sage as much as it looks like lavender and lemongrass and some other things. And how to cleanse, how to clear space, paranormal or otherwise, how to do healings on people's bodies, especially for like pregnant women and people who were dealing with cancerous conditions, but probably at that time they weren't referring to it as that, or they didn't fully know it was that. So she did it all. She did it all. This is now handed down to you. Okay, so it may have skipped a couple generations, not because it wasn't there, but because they were fearful of it. And when you reject your abilities, you can end up with what looks like mental disorders or become actual mental disorders, anxiety disorders, depressive disorders. Okay, you're not supposed to reject this. So anyways, you could have some people in the family who have it but didn't use it properly, okay, based on fear. And you're up. I feel like what you're going to be doing with all of this, if you so choose, is following where the universe is pulling you. And that's going to be in any type of healing work. In particulars, could be more clinical. So you have to be careful that if you're doing any kind of clinical, like a medical work, anything from psychology to nursing to, you know what I mean, but becoming a surgeon, I mean, whatever you do with it, you want to be careful that you're not only doing that. Okay. You want to always be cleansing that out by doing, you could call it spiritual work, okay, or energy work as well. So that's readings, Reiki, psychic surgery, paranormal work, criminal investigations. I mean, any type of, you know, alternative healing work. I think that you may find that you are also pulled into helping people more in advocacy type work. All right. So whatever route you decide to take that in, I would expect that you are using some of these innate understandings on alternative or holistic healings that grandma passed down to you, but also using this very strong mediumistic ability to channel spirit on call, okay, at any time you choose. So just saying what spirits are here, who wants to talk, it'll be there if you want to lean in. All right. And that's something a lot of readers have to chase. They chase it and chase it and chase it. But if spirit doesn't really want to talk with you, they're not going to. If you're not always working from a high ethical code of conduct or morality, they're not going to talk to you. You can attract the lower ones, but you can't attract the higher ones. So when you can do it on demand, that says a lot about your character as well. All right. Mindy Michelle, thank you. And who do we have next? Shauna Dempsey. Shauna Dempsey, psychic, straight out of the gate, psychic. And level 3 looks like empathic ability, moving into 4 here. I think that what we really want to do with this is have enough insight, because right now you're not ready to like fully launch. You may feel like, well, I don't want to just go out there and start doing psychic readings, you know, willy-nilly, even though I get a lot of information psychically, it comes randomly. I don't understand the patterns in it. I don't think I could do it on demand. I think something that would be good for you is to take this really spot on psychic ability and do it more deliberately through, and you may already be doing this, tarot. If you take tarot in such a way where you're understanding the meaning traditionally of the cards, it can help you with your confidence. But I also see you working with, I think they're called oracle decks. Am I right? Where they have no maybe specific meaning, or they don't have words on them, or whatever it is. Okay. They're a little bit more freestyle is that's what I mean by this. There are other types of decks, okay, that would help you with scrying. Thank you for the hearts on TikTok. So scrying is the ability to look into like a crystal ball or fire or tea leaves or runes or bones or blood or coffee grounds, the Turkish coffee ladies. I love them. They'll just look at the junk in the bottom of the coffee cup and they'll just give you this amazing reading. And it's like, what? I mean, that in itself proves that some people like to have a little bit of a visual. That's what scrying is, but they don't necessarily need it, you know, to get the right information. And that's where you are. Okay. So give yourself some help. Give yourself a tool. Cards specifically, I think would work well for you. Okay. But I think ultimately what you may be choosing to do with this is some type of healing work because of all the empathic ability you have, where it's like, maybe you give a Reiki session or you offer long distance healing, you do energy work, psychic surgery, what have you, chakra realignment, whatever. Where you're also helping people to detox when they're stuck in life. They don't understand why they're not getting anywhere because they have certain problems they need to let go of, changes they need to make. You could have specific insight into that. This is a good place for you to start. And then maybe you sort of bring in a little bit of reading. Okay. I used to work psychic fairs like 4 days a week. We were traveling psychic fair, and yeah, it was like 4 days a week. They were like 10-hour days. And then I would do other psychic fairs and parties and stuff during the week. And, you know, it was a lot. But I forgot what my point was, because what were we talking about? We were talking about your empathic ability, your ability to, oh, right. I know what my point was. This was a while ago. So, you know, maybe like 15 years ago. I don't know. I don't see it much anymore, but I'd bring it back if I were you. There were always a couple women there, no matter where I went, what psychic fair I was working. There were always a couple women there who would give short Reiki healings. And then they would give like a 2 or 5 minute reading at the end. And I was like, that's smart. Like they combined it, and they were always busy, always. So you can learn a lot, okay, from doing that. And that could launch you. I think for you, it would launch you into something else afterward. All right. Thank you. We're going to move on to another one for Mindy Garcia. This is just a confirmation, a testimonial here from Mindy. So Mindy says, that's amazing. Thank you, Ivy. I never knew that about my grandmother. I see her in visions and she appears to me a lot. How amazing. You are so welcome. And it's really important, I think, for everyone to know who in the family has the ability, because while everyone has it to a degree, some people have it to a heightened degree, and it goes one of two ways. They either leaned in even if they weren't allowed to, or it was dangerous for them. Okay. They either leaned in whatever way they could at that time, or they were diagnosed or misdiagnosed as being mentally ill. They may have turned to alcoholism or drug abuse. They may have become very kind of melancholy or detached. And some of them were even quite abusive and paranoid. So look at your family, because all the people who seem super toxic, they have it too. They just didn't develop it properly. Really interesting. Also, I was going to say on that note, like Mindy has a grandmother following her around who she said appears to her. She didn't know that about her, but she appears to her regularly. We all have that. So we all have a couple ancestors or deceased loved ones who whose work we're kind of carrying on. We would say, like, karmic debt, and they will lead and guide you on this journey. I always tell my psychic mediumship students, you're going to have one person show up from your bloodline, and they're going to lead you through the entire course. It's really fascinating. Anna Pekka, intuitive ability assessment for Anna Pekka. A lot of mediumship going on here. Very quiet. You're very quiet about it. I'm not saying you're ashamed of it, but it's sort of like, what am I going to do with this? It's more of this question of like, where do I begin? And then maybe when you watch other people do it, you're like, that's good for them. I love this journey for you, but this doesn't really fit. Okay. It's almost like I can't work this in. I think you should be aware of how mediumistic you really are, especially at night. So for someone like you, we're going to say that the majority of your visits, channeling, messaging is coming through in the sleep state. It could seem like prophecy, but when I talk about prophecy, I'm mostly talking about your psychic ability, which has nothing to do with spirit at all. So it could seem like it's prophecy, but really it's more like symbology, you being told, someone showed you something. Okay. And that's how you know it came from spirit being deceased animals, deceased loved ones, your ancestors, guides, angels, okay, higher ups. And you're realizing how accurate these things are, these sort of prophecies that you're having, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. You've had an increase over the last year to about a year and a half, and you peaked at about 7 months ago. So we also see the haunting hour affecting you. No one likes this, but I would love to hear in the comments, who's affected by the haunting hour? This is an international phenomenon where from 3 to 5:30 in the morning, you are woken up, or you don't go to sleep until it's almost over because your body can't rest. But 3 to 5:30 in the morning, the haunting hour, spirits come through to communicate with you. Okay. So let me know in the comment section if you have this. And it could be like Grand Central Station in your bedroom. It's ridiculous. You have to set boundaries there. I do feel like one of the things that you could be, doing with all of this, Anna, is, again, thinking outside the box a little bit. Start with that. Allow yourself to explore what it would mean, what it may look like, okay, if you were to invest with your curiosity, because you are curious, if you were to invest a bit more in mediumship as a whole, getting educated, learning how spirits communicate, because they all communicate differently, learning more about how you actually receive it. What are these messages? And do I feel I could deliver some of these out to other people in a way that's meaningful for you, that fits for you? There's a lot more there to that story, and it's going to be peaking again this upcoming year for you. So here we go again. You have hit level 4 empathic ability as well. Okay. Which is feeling other people's physical and emotional state as though it is your own, and at the higher levels, telepathy. So even hearing their thoughts and becoming quite literally a human bullshit detector. So your tolerance with people's bullshit may be zilch at this time. And that's a little bit new for you. All right, Deanna Alt. Deanna Alt. Deanna, what abilities does Deanna have right now that are super important to know about? Psychic, and mediumistic. These are so connected. You may not know what the heck is going on. Like, you may be in a place where you're like, I'm really grateful, to get this, but what was that? And why is it like sometimes just changing and shifting? It's like, it's hard to have clear pattern recognition with intuitive intelligence when you have two abilities that are so closely connected and are activating at the same time. It's like, okay, I don't know. It can feel like there's no rhyme or reason to it, but there is. So what I would recommend you focus on here for a while is understanding how to split the two up. So when you have psychic ability, we're talking about your clairvoyance, your third eye, you prophecy. We're talking about you being able to accurately predict past, present, future without being given any information whatsoever for yourself, circumstances, world events, other people. Okay, all of it. When we're talking about empathic ability like this, or mediumship for you like this, we're really talking about information coming from spirits in a very, very similar way that you receive it psychically. And often that's because it's happening again simultaneously. Now, when we talk about one of the quick things you could start doing to break it down is to pay attention to when you feel a presence. So we all know when we got something. Okay. A lot of people like to call them downloads. They're not. I mean, downloads are kind of a lot more serious than just getting a message. Downloads can take weeks or months. Okay. And are pretty dramatic. But when we receive some type of message, we want to pay attention to whether or not we felt like a spirit was there. Was I alone when I got that piece of information, whether it be in a dream, in your kitchen, in your vehicle, because spirit likes to come through when you're driving a lot because of the motion meditation, walking the dog, walking yourself, whatever. Okay, pay attention. Did I feel like I was alone at that time or not? If not, you could put that in the mediumistic category. Okay. And then you also want to look at things like ear ringing and other physical cues. So when the left ear rings, tinnitus, or, a tingling, a pressure in the ear, we're talking mediumship. When it's the right ear ringing, mostly, we're talking psychic ability activating. When we are talking about an anxiety attack, we are typically talking about mediumship, not psychic ability. Okay. Because when a spirit comes in, it can often affect our energy field. And the more message delivery they're doing, the more the anxiety attacks and possible anxiety disorders are getting misdiagnosed with an anxiety disorder. I can't prescribe or diagnose. You may also feel a sense of dizziness when mediumship is activated. So it could be like translucent lines going across your vision. You could feel like you're having a drop in your sugar or blood pressure, but the doctors can't find anything. You could have numbness in the mouth. Okay, the face, a tingling in the tongue, tingling of the hands or the feet, or a feeling like spider webs are up over your face, like a sticky feeling. That's all mediumship. These are all physical signs that you've just interacted. Okay, whether you wanted to or not, that someone has interacted with you. Okay, so start breaking it up into two different categories. That's where you need to start. Okay, and then it will get more clear, and you can learn more about each ability and what the messaging really is. Okay, we're going to move on to another one. This is Scotty on TikTok. Scotty, what intuitive ability? Psychic, straight out of the gate psychic. You also have an ability to hear from spirit in a time of crisis, which is really interesting. I call this, this is often connected to messenger of death syndrome. Okay, so with psychic ability, there's a small portion of psychics who are able to know when someone is going to pass away ahead of time. They know when someone's going to get ill with like a serious disease. They know when an accident is going to occur, some type of trauma is going to hit. You can get very in tuned over the years with things like world events. Okay, wars and things like 9/11, whatever it is, certain leaders, okay, what's happening with their decisions. And it can feel like a blessing sometimes. It usually feels like a curse. It can make you hyper religious. It can make you believe that anything in the spiritual world is demonic. People may have told you not to talk about the things that you see, or they've said that it's bad. And you may, at some point, if you don't keep it in check, feel like you're actually causing it, like you're manifesting these diseases, traumatic incidents, accidents, deaths. You're not, okay? You're not manifesting it. You're just seeing it ahead of time. But the way I see this mostly playing out for you is like, I'm driving, and I psychically know that I need to shift lanes, or I need to get off the highway, or I need to, change things about the time I leave my house. You just know, you just have a weird feeling and you do it. And then after you shifted lanes, an accident happens right over on the side of you, and it would have like demolished, totaled out your car, something like that. So you seem to be pretty in tuned psychically in such a way where it's within like minutes, okay, even seconds of something occurring. I think the other thing that you really have going on here is a high level of empathic ability. I would say level 3, where you are able, I keep seeing cards being dealt to you. So you could be receiving a lot of tarot. I thought you were actually doing tarot. Take it out, resonates. But with empathic ability like this, it's a knowing what to say to people. Okay. It's an ability to know what people need. And I think that if you were to do something like readings, you would be extremely capable. And you could also transfer this to being like a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, maybe even like a spiritual life coach or life coaching. Okay, there's a lot that you could do with this. You're probably just being put in a lot of management positions. You're probably always being told to like speak to people, because you can relay information over to them properly. But that's not really where it's at for you in using these abilities. So we want to take to the next level. But you are very capable of telling people, okay? It's like, here are your cards, and then you hear stop. And it's like, this is what you need to know about the changes that need to be made, or people sometimes just need to hear some healing kind words, even though they would never share their personal business. Okay. They would never talk about a certain wound. But somehow, okay, what they need to hear. And it's very powerful. Okay. So I would start there with just giving out random loving messages and not making it weird. I mean, we don't have to, and this is sort of a bit of a message for everybody here. We don't have to stop and say to people, can I give you a message? I mean, you're not Long Island Medium, okay? And she has editors. So I assure you, it's also not really appropriate, in my opinion, to be doing a lot of that. Because we want to respect people's boundaries. Don't go dump an emotional load on them while they're in the middle of their work shift. They got 6 hours to go. Take it easy, just because you're so eager to say something. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about being able to give a loving gesture or say something in the right moment for someone, okay, which is when it's really supposed to be done. And it wouldn't be there if it wasn't supposed to. Okay, come out, be more open. And this is just a general message for everyone. Be more open about giving whatever thought pops in your head, whatever feeling, whatever kind words, okay, needs to be said. All right. Let's move on to another one. This is for Miami Heat 305-ish. Miami Heat says, hi, Ivy. Any abilities that might still be in neutral that I can further develop or might be in the future? Okay. Abilities in neutral can further develop. All right. Let's see. A psychic ability for you actually comes up here, and it feels like getting faster and getting more detail, more in depth. So you can do this by playing games with yourself, which are a little hard if you're trying to trick yourself, okay, but it's doable. You could have someone else, okay, do this with you. This is part of the way I got good at like doing all of this was playing as a kid psychic games. Like my sister would sit me down and she would put cards in front of me and she would have them face down and she would be like, I think she was one of the first people that knew I had this. But she would be like, find, the black card, or she'd be like, what is this? And I'd be able to say like, it's a 6 of hearts. It's whatever. It's red. She'd be like, mix them up. And then I was able to go in, my mother would have me go get her lottery tickets. And the cashiers would do this only for me, they said, but I would tell them, pull this one down, 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 down. I'd be like, I want that card. And those were always the winners. I would have my brother hide shit in the house. And I would do like a hide and seek, like a hunt. I would find things and I would know, like in Easter eggs, he would hide certain objects in Easter eggs. And so I would know like there's 3 dimes in that Easter egg and I would know where it was and what was in it. Like there are a million games that you could play, but I think it helps you to get more detail. Okay. When you do things like this, I also think that what you could be doing is like getting faster because your confidence is growing. I wasn't ever shy about necessarily doing this type of work because I have a ridiculous amount of confidence in my accuracy rate because it's been tested a trillion times. If you're right, you're right. And the only way to do that is to allow yourself to be wrong. Okay. So like a ton of times I was also wrong, but then I got stronger because I didn't let it shrink me. I was like, screw this. Next time I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. But that's a child's mentality, have a childlike mentality, do that, lean in. But I think that you could also allow yourself when dealing with like clients, for example, you're giving readings, whatever, on even situations, doesn't have to just be with clients, but like let yourself spend a little bit more time. You seem to be very rushed by the clock. And I do believe you were a former student. So I probably did that to you because we have to, for professional reasons, stay within a time frame. However, you may want to let go of that for a minute. Okay. While you're developing a little more deeply, you want to give yourself a little bit more time. Okay, to go in depth on certain messages where it's hitting the client just right. There's something more serious that needs to be said there. We're getting there, but it's going to be a bit of a slow go. Now, that usually happens because there's a lot of past buildup. So we can't just be like now and into the future. Let's go, go, go. Here's the roadmap. Nope. We have to go backward first. We have to clear things out. You have to give them, the root issue. You have to talk about maybe even where it came from, what they can do about that. Then we can talk about now. Then we can talk about the future. Well, that takes more time. Okay. So try to focus on those areas. Thank you, Miami Heat. Great question. All right. We're going to move on to another one. Edgar Velardes. Edgar, what intuitive abilities does psychic, empathic level 4? I do wonder if this hit you as a kid. 4 years old? 4 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old. Somebody passed when you were 8, 12, 4, 8, and 12. I don't know why you're so angry at 8 years old. I don't really have time to look at all that today, but somebody does seem to have passed or gotten seriously ill. It's probably a family member. Looks like we had some stuff going on with a maternal elder, and then we had some stuff going on with a gentleman in the family. Feels like uncle. Okay. And then we may have had a grandfather pass around that time, but you seem very angry at 8 years old. And I don't think it's because of them necessarily. I think it's because of the way maybe you were being treated. It did activate some of your empathic ability, so that it was sort of, I call it spillover. It's coming out all the time, all the time. And it's involuntary. It can make you feel very dysregulated. And you may have developed some, I can't prescribe a diagnosis, but some physical shows, okay, of that, physical manifestations of that. And it really peaked at 4 years old. Okay, so that's a lot. So empathic ability, level 4, basically your whole life. 12 years old, you seem to be calming down with it a little bit more. It's probably hormonal to some degree. And psychic ability comes up really strong with you. Mediumship is going to be increasing for you for the next 2 years in ballpark 7 or 8 months. And at 2 years and 8 months out, you may be called to the forefront to use it, like given a microphone, invited on an interview, invited on a podcast, standing up at a service and giving out prophecy. Okay, something happens at that time. But I think that for right now, you want to focus on the empathic and psychic ability that seems a little bit out of hand, like it's kind of running you more than you're running it. And that's going to come from overabsorbing other people's energy, other people's thoughts, other people's physical ailments, other people's desperate need for healing, that you can involuntarily, excessively start giving and just pouring into people in situations where you really shouldn't be. Ultimately, though, what you can do with this empathic ability, because it is energy manipulation at its highest form, what you can start doing is more active healing work with people without saying it. Okay, so clearing out if they have a lot of stress, if they have a lot of mental discord, and I'm hearing disruption in their lives in general, clearing that out, clearing that out, clearing that out for them. You could do it for family, friends, clients, patients, whatever it is. But when you do this, they're going to heal. They're going to grow leaps and bounds. Okay. And they will know you did something, but they won't know why, or they'll know it happened when they were with you, but they won't know why exactly. No one else will either. And quite frankly, I don't see any point in talking about it in this day and age, because, unless people are really open, don't waste your breath. They're not ready yet. The psychic ability is, I want to say for you, getting more spot on in passing judgment on the way people are thinking and the things that people will do. So the more time you can spend analyzing someone's behavior or their relationship or what's going on in the workplace between the higher ups and the people who are waiting on a promotion, like the more you can analyze those type of mundane situations and jot it down in a journal and then go back and check, I think you're not only going to find that you're getting more and more accurate in what you predict will happen, and you should spend more time dealing with timelines, because it can be accuracy in what will occur and when it will occur. Okay. Also, don't get hard on yourself if you start playing games with timeline and you find out that sometimes it's spot on and sometimes it's really off base. And you're like, that's weird. I felt it so strongly. Well, now I'm frustrated. I must suck at this. You don't. We have 2 different types of future. Okay. And this is just a general message for everyone. I talk about this pretty heavily in my psychic mediumship course. There are 2 different types of future. There is destiny charted future. It is written in the stars. You could see it in astrology. You could see it in the numerology. I can give a 100% guarantee that something is going to happen because it is written. There is also free will future, which means based on your decisions, other people's decisions, other factors that occur, timeline can be shifted. And sometimes certain things won't occur at all, or other things will. Okay, so we don't control everything. That's why when people say, well, I don't understand, is life just like a joke? Is it all going to play out one specific way and I should just laugh at this like a maniac? It's all ridiculous. It's rigged. It's set, or is it whatever we make of it? It's both. It's literally both. okay, at all times. And you have to understand which is which. And the only way to really understand that is by testing situations like this out. So have fun with it. Very interesting. Okay, let's move on to another one. Dorothy Hall. That was my grandmother's name. Dorothy. Dottie. Dorothy Hall says, I know I'm an empath and I don't like it. I would like to develop any medium or psychic abilities. Okay. Well, here's the thing with empathic ability. And I'm reteaching the class in a couple weeks, so you can take it with us live if you want, or you can just go get the video download. I teach it at universities, in public schools. I train therapists and doctors, educators, parents. Okay. It's important to understand why empathic ability feels like such a curse when it can be such a blessing. So check out that class. Now, the idea that someone can be psychic, right, in itself, when we say someone's just psychic, what that means is that that's the ability that they're tapping into, is psychic ability. It's not really connected to spirit. It really has nothing to do with anything else, like empathy or anything, okay? That is true. Then we have mediumship. Mediumship means you are channeling spirits, but you are, in addition to that, at the base level, a psychic. So you can't have, with mediumship, one without the other. They go hand in hand. Then you have empathic ability. And anyone who has a lot of empathic ability is automatically mediumistic and psychic. So you already have all three, okay? Because I would agree that you are very mediumistic, Dorothy, or empathic. But I do think that it's up to you to develop the other two. Because empathic ability can just run you over. It could just rule your entire life. Okay. Hence the empathic awareness training. The intensity of empathic ability is so great that it can drown everything else out. And if you're not properly trained in it, you're not controlling it, it just stifles you. It stagnates you out with like almost like a burnout, emotional, energetic, physical, mental, all the things. Okay. And you have to learn to manage that first, so that those what seems like disabilities, okay, and a lot of people are misdiagnosed with a bunch of things because they are highly empathic. But you have to get those right before you can really explore psychic and mediumistic abilities without having them entirely drowned out. Okay, so yeah, but it's there. It's available to you. So learn the language, languages. Psychic ability is a completely different language than mediumship. Mediumship is actually fairly complicated, and you got to start from the bottom up. Okay. But for you, start by getting your empathic ability under wraps. And hope to see you for the psychic mediumship course. You'd be a shoo-in. Wellness Sanctuary. Wellness Sanctuary. What ability or abilities does Wellness Sanctuary have? So you have Messenger of Death Syndrome. Somebody else got this tonight, and it is an ability that can cause you a lot of discomfort if you don't understand that it isn't a curse, that it is a blessing, and it's something you really need to lean into. Okay, so when we talk about Messenger of Death Syndrome, we're talking about you being so psychic that probably from childhood, you would have prophecy about when someone, usually within the family, and then it extends outward from there. But someone in the family was going to pass away. You may have also been the one who received the first visit from a family member who passed away. You would know when someone is going to get into an accident, they're going to get sick, they're going to, go through some type of a trauma. You would be able also with this to work in criminal investigations, missing persons. You would do well Also, in any paranormal work, from exorcisms to attachments to paranormal cleansings on houses or land issues, I think that you have to understand that your psychic ability is a little bit different than what a lot of people have. And you want to use it very intensely for healing purposes, or preventative purposes. Um, within a very strong ethical code of conduct, okay, because it can be disturbing how accurate you are, um and about what these are darker things typically, but if you twist it, if you turn it, okay, if you utilize it in a really helpful way, or again a preventative way, you can help people in medical intuitive work, psychic surgery. You can assist people in like crossing over. I have a death coaching training. It's, I guess, similar to death doula. I don't know a ton about the death doula thing. It's kind of similar to what a lot of people do in hospice. But you're very skilled in understanding someone who is about to die, how to heal the family through that process, how to keep them connected in the new communication they're going to need to use, or even if someone just recently passed, how to bridge that gap in communication. Yeah, you would also be able to find a lot of things. Okay, so you could be working not necessarily with like criminal investigations, missing persons to salvage anything, but like if it's already done, you could find the body, you could find missing objects for people who lost something at the basic level. It's like so and so lost their earrings, or their grandmother's ring went missing, or where the heck are my car keys. Okay, you also have this ability to go into like a bag. Say your purse is like mine and it's just a deep, never-ending abyss. Okay, it's like I like a big bag. It's like, say you can know to start testing yourself out with things like this. It's like, I know where this lipstick is. I know where this hairpin is. I can see it in my mind's eye. Remote viewing. Okay, you see it in your mind's eye, and then you reach in, and without digging and looking, you find it. Okay, start building up your confidence level in things like that. But I think you could take this into quite a few different directions. They're really, really powerful, and it would not be hard for you. But don't let it weigh you down if you feel as though it's been a bit of a curse to know these types of things ahead of time. Accidents, tragedy, death, all the things. It's just part of it. And let's move on to another one. For those of you that are tuning in late, please give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment of any kind, but I would really love to hear where you're tuning in from. Please do share this video and subscribe. And what we are doing is intuitive ability assessment, essentially, which you can get up on my website, Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium.com. But tonight I'm telling you if you're a psychic, a medium, or an empath. So you can ask specific questions about different things that have happened to you. You can also just let me tell you what I'm seeing for you. It is unlimited. So go ahead and join us. Happy to have you here. Deb Basil says, would like to know what abilities I have. Okay. Starting to see things, Deb, out of the corners of my eyes here. So, you have an ability called clairvoyance. All right. Clairvoyance is the ability to make accurate predictions, but it's also the ability to see things in your head, to see things in your mind's eye, almost like you're watching a movie. And people who have this to a heightened degree also get visuals. But they're not visuals that come in your mind's eye. They're literally there. You're seeing stuff, okay? Now, what I just saw, which means this is what you do, and this is probably something you did more as a child, our first blocks, thank you, society and parents and the medical institution, right? Like they start putting blocks in us around 5 and 6 years old, unfortunately, when the ability is peaking, all right? So you may have noticed it change a bit after that. But what you would notice still from time to time, and certainly as a kid, was that you would have seen animals out of the corner of your eye. Now for you, I'm getting it mostly to the right side and down low. These don't have to just be animals. These could also be like elementals and other paranormal activity. You may also see lights, cascading lights, sparkling lights. The second thing I saw was cascading white lights, which are closely connected to like female spirits and angel activity. So just a side note. But you may also see things like orbs or movement, lights, streaks, okay, things like this moving about. And I think that's important for you to start feeding. However, I'm going to say this. You are opening Pandora's box when you say, I want to see more, or I used to have this ability as a kid, I want it back. Let me entertain it. Let me try to get it back. When you feed something, anything in the world, you're going to get more of that thing. And when we talk about intuitive abilities, you're not able to backpedal very easily. Okay. So if you open Pandora's box with this, expect it to be a bit overwhelming for a while. It could get so disruptive, and you may have this already, but like where you're driving down the road and you swore to God you saw a man in the road or on the side of the road, or you saw somebody and then there's nothing there. There's not a pole that you could have mistaken it for. It's not a tree. It's not a gigantic deer. And you're like, oh, I just was seeing wrong. No. You saw something and there's nothing. You saw something clear as day. Okay. So we could start seeing increases like that, and people don't like that, especially at night when you're driving. Okay. So be mindful. But I do think it's worth you investing in. I think that with an ability like this, it's freaking crazy. I mean, it's insane. Okay, you could see such specific detail on like a spirit, for example. You could call them in and you can tell somebody what hair color, eye color, what kind of hat they're wearing, detail on the stitching on their clothes. You could talk about their teeth, their facial hair. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's ridiculously powerful. Okay, so you could also, because you can use your clairvoyance to replay old stories, you could go back in time. This is commonly used with like, time travel, or if you want to go back to something that just happened in the more recent past, like in this lifetime. Somebody can be talking about something, telling you a story or asking you something, and you can go backward on demand and you can see it and watch it replay in your head. This is how I catch a lot of people lying about things. Okay? Because it's like they're telling me one story and I'm watching it in my head and I'm like, that's not how it happened. You were the bad one. You were attacking this other person. This person treated you that way in defense. Things like this tend to pop up a lot because whatever is dynamic is what activates clairvoyance the most. Whatever is dramatic, okay, whatever is potent. And typically, yes, whatever is low vibrational. So, but still, that's worth playing with, okay, to get better with your skills. Anyways, I could go on and on. I think I'm going over on yours, but that would be an ability you definitely want to use. Don't assume that the things you see are things that everybody sees. Okay. And this is sort of a general message for everyone. Don't assume the things you know are things everyone knows. Don't assume the weird shit you do is something everybody does this. No, they don't. No. Mm-mm. All right. It is special. Thank you for the hearts on TikTok. Let's get into another one. Okay. And any testimonials that are coming in also, Kim, any feedback that's being given. Okay. We could start popping those up at this time. Heather Hopkins. Heather Hopkins. What intuitive abilities does Heather have? You seem to have a lot of ability in energy work, which is connected directly to your level 3-4 empathic ability. You may have felt that you were more on like a level 2-3 the last couple years, but it skyrocketed. So it seems like you went through something, major change. This could have affected your finances. I can't prescribe a diagnosis. Could have been health related. There could have also been tension in a relationship that was a foundational relationship for you. So now we're here. Now what happens is that in the past, you were working a lot with like crystals or the cards or pendulums or whatever. Take it as, I'm just going to say tools in general. It doesn't have to literally be those things. But it seems like it was a combination of different things. I think that in the use of those tools, you learned a lot about energy transfer and how to manipulate energy, how to also read energy. So, for example, you were asking for some type of an answer, and then the energy would pass through one of these tools and objects. You would read it, you would decipher it. Okay. So, you learned a lot about that. You also learned about what was defective. Okay. So, it's like, this is inconsistent. This is not, I don't think, always right enough that I can trust it anymore. You're learning about, yeah, like discernment. You no longer need any of that stuff. All right. So maybe I took the long way home on this message. I don't know. But, you have maybe gotten in a routine of thinking that you need to receive. This could also be you receiving a lot of readings or receiving a lot of healings, receiving a lot of like outside, help, whether it be from humans or spirit or whatever. But I think now, because you are at these higher levels, you're going to be able to access anything psychic, anything mediumistic. Again, when you're empathic, especially at the higher levels, you're automatically a medium, you're automatically a psychic. And now it's a question of what, do you want to use it for? You're going to have an increase in mediumship for the next year and 3 months. You're going to have a major increase in your psychic ability for the next 9 months. And I was trying to see if there was something stressful triggering that. Like now, I feel like you're coming out of a stressful period. I don't think so. Okay. So, kudos. I think you've handled this well, but I do think you're tired, for sure. You need a break. Unfortunately, intuitive intelligence doesn't do that. It increases. Okay. As soon as you need a break, it's like downloads and kundalini and electricity running through my body, and I can't sleep anymore. And I'm a night owl and like all this crazy stuff happens. But I think that you really want to look at this ability that you're going to have for the next 9 months to tap in with your clairvoyance, your third eye, and be able to, yes, do readings for yourself, healings for yourself without any tools. But for others, that's a great way for you to test it out. So if you have something to say to someone, prediction, you should probably go ahead and do it. I mean, within ethical bounds, of course, but I would really start keeping a journal on that. You seem to be watching two people in your life, one who feels like a male, who almost reads like a brother type energy, and one who is a female who feels more like a friend or a sister type energy. Them in particular, and you can feel like a little bit of a stalker or a weirdo doing this, but whatever, who cares? It's like, look, they're going through all these changes. I need to increase my psychic accuracy. So I'm going to keep a journal on them, and you're basically clocking everything that you think is going to happen to them and when, how certain things are going to work out, and you try not to influence it. And then you watch it play out, okay, for proof. There may also be someone you're keeping an eye on who's negative and toxic. And that can always be fun, if you're kind of watching them and they've got a lot of karma coming to them, you could be like, yeah, I'm going to get a front row seat to the karma show. Some bad shit's going to happen to this person because they deserve it. It's coming, and that may be a male in your life. And you watch it unfold. Okay. Try to have some fun with this. But ultimately, I think you need to be doing readings on people, and some type of extraction work, which could be like detox work. Energy work, but like detoxing, helping them detox. You may be good in paranormal work as well. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you would be good in paranormal work. You don't seem to mind paranormal work, and I got that for 2 other people tonight, but like, I don't think they want to do it. You have to be okay doing it. You have to have seen enough of the darkness of the world and the underworld in this life and be like, I'm good. I can do this. Okay. And you've got what it takes to not let it take you. You've got what it takes. Most people who are in paranormal work, they have no business being in there whatsoever. Okay, so keep it in mind. we're short on staff for sure. Let's go to, okay, Wellness Sanctuary gave a testimony saying thank you. That was spot on. You're very welcome. Jillian Corbin. Jillian Corbin, intuitive ability assessment. I don't know if you're teaching now, but if you're not, I don't really have time to look into all that today. I'm just going to say it this way: teaching, leading, speaking, training others, constantly being put in that type of position, whether you asked for it or not. There's a reason that's happening. Okay. You have psychic and empathic ability almost intensely, like on the same levels, almost. And what that means is that you're very in tuned to, with your psychic ability, like what other people think and what they're going to do and how they're going to talk to each other and whether or not there's going to be like drama or triangulation and how you can split things up to work better. A lot of psychic ability about what people are interested in. So it's sort of like what's happening out in the world and the entertainment world even, and how can I entice them to listen to me based on these remarks or inferences. It's like, I'm going to keep saying, and you may sometimes be like, how did I know to say that? Or why did I say that? Or you get a great reaction from the audience and you're like, where did that come from? I don't even know anything about that. Like you're talking kind of out of your rear end. You know what I mean? Where did that come from? It's your psychic ability activating. Doesn't have to make sense to you. It has to make sense to them. Okay. So you're definitely using it. I think that in connection with your empathic ability. Okay. And again, your empathic ability is a bit stronger than this. You are learning how to tell people what they need to hear with your empathic ability. That is the ability to manipulate energy. So empaths know what people are thinking and feeling, and unfortunately, we involuntarily absorb other people's energy. I think that up until this point, you have been absorbing. And now you're saying, I want less of that. I want to be more in control of it. I want to take better care of my health, my energy, my mental health, my emotional state, which means less of this absorption. Unfortunately, you can't go live in a cave and you can't take mental health days constantly, and you can't have all the personal space in your bubble as much as you want. So I'm going to recommend the empathic awareness training. You need to use the tools to block that overabsorption. And that will allow you to also be deliberate in how you do the energy manipulation, the healing work, which is the point of empathic ability. You have such a kind heart and an ear for hearing what people really need. And it's about healing their hearts as well. It's about healing their minds also. And you may be very tempted in the upcoming, I want to say 2 to 4 years, but it seems to peak at about 3 years out from now. You may be really, really overwhelmingly inclined to help people in such a way where you're using this speaking ability to show them what they can do in their own lives to become the facilitator of their healing. It's like you want them to have more agency. You want them to be empowered. You want them to become power players in the world. You want to sort of set them free. And you may feel that one of the ways to do that is through like videos. So whether you're doing that on like social media, through like sharing memes, making your own memes, short discussions, even doing like lives, chats, where you're doing this, I think it's really important for you to start leaning into that more because people desperately need it. And you see it in a way most others don't. And you care in a way that most others don't. A lot of readers out there, they don't care. They don't care if you live or you die. They don't care. Okay. Just because they're giving something accurately doesn't make them a light worker. They could also say some pretty horrible things without any type of regret or ethical code of conduct. Okay. And I'm not saying it's all readers. I'm saying there are a lot of them. And, they don't care. They're doing it for whether it's like money or entertainment or, for their own benefit in some way. But you are a genuine light worker in that you want to give the healing in such a way that empowers the individual to take it and run with it. Okay. And even to go out there and become a healer for others. That's huge. You're not gatekeeping anything. Okay. And was that a cop car? Maybe it was just a car. So, okay, get into it for sure. All right, we're going to move on to another one. Camilla Herrera. Okay. And Camilla Herrera. I almost said Rivera. Are you related to Rivera's? Camilla. Wow. A lot of mediumship here. Your dad's side of the family. There's some native roots here as well. Tribal, indigenous. And then on mom's side, we have it heavy with one grandfather and two grandmothers and an aunt. Now, I don't know if this is your godmother. I don't know why you're not calling her your aunt. I think that what has happened here with your abilities and where you are now, you are in a place with your mediumship where you are almost overflowing. Okay, really, I don't need to tell you, but you are receiving so much that you may feel it's become disruptive. This could be increasing from 3 to 5:30 in the morning. You're getting the annoying ear ringing, the tinnitus, especially on the left side. You even get it on the right side, which is your guides activating and talking to you and channeling. You would have, haunting hour 3 to 5:30 in the morning, if I didn't already say that, which is disruption to your sleep, night owl syndrome. Yeah, there's a lot. You've also got spillover in that where spirit used to come and try to talk to you through the sleep state. You have reached a point in the last 2 years where you now have all of that prophecy or those visions or those visitations while you're awake. So you were having it all the time, while you were asleep. And now it's like also when I'm awake. I think that it may also bothered you to a degree that you were receiving because you have a little bit of messenger of death syndrome going on here. Maybe you were getting paranoid about, in particular, a male in your life, but like what's going on with his health, what's going on with his circumstances, being worried, being concerned about other people in your life because a spirit came and told you something was happening with them or going to happen with them, or that they weren't telling you that it was happening with them. And so you're also using it, and you may be doing this with your parents, did this with your parents, like oversee other people's lives, using mediumship to oversee what you need to assist and heal. I think at this stage, you definitely want to be giving it out more. So this idea of sort of sitting down and doing what I do, for example, it's not mainstream. You're not going to find it all over YouTube. You're not going to find it really anywhere because everyone flips cards, which is a completely different thing. Or they do astrology, which is a completely different thing. But just straight up sitting down and tapping in with spirit and channeling messages for people is something that, I want to see more of. This is how I train my students. I want to see more of us really coming forward in something that still seems pretty taboo. It's very questionable. So you're going to get a lot of side eyes on this, but it's real and it can be proven. And I think you need to have more confidence in that. And I think it's time for you to step up and allow for yourself to be seen in such a way where people have your I heard calling card. This could be a business card. This could be a website. This could be you doing this on social media. This could just be you making yourself available. Okay. So that's a symbol, you making yourself available to do the work. And it, like I said, it runs in your bloodline. Okay. So it was always there. It will always be there. It will only get stronger. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. Can't shove this one back in, Pandora's box. It doesn't work that way. So be prepared also for increases that you're going to see for the next couple years. And know that whenever someone around you is sick or passing or going through some type of difficulty and transition, your mediumship activates and increases. Okay. So that's both activating and increasing. You're going to want to use that as a teaching tool. Okay. Yeah. A lot happening here with you. Also, if you've got some natives hanging out around you and you're like, who the heck is that? Okay. That's who it is. I want to go dad's side of the family, native bloodline, indigenous, some ancestors keeping an eye on you. Okay. In like full attire, like feathers. I see feathers going up. This could be, I do wonder if you're Caribbean, like I'm Taino Arawak, or feathers go up and are blue. Some of yours are more like brown, but I've seen them going up and out. Okay. So instead of laying flat, different tribes, different things. Okay. Expect more visits. 2 in particular. We're visiting you regularly. Angela Raven. Angela Raven, intuitive abilities, psychic, and a lot of mediumship increasing from like 6 months ago into the next, I want to say 2.5 to maybe 2 years and 7 months. Mediumship increasing. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Mediumship increasing, I'm going to say 2.7, and we're going to say psychic ability. You have empathic ability. I don't think you have a lot of interest in working with it, even though you talk about it a lot. And I don't know that you're talking about it because you want to. I think you're talking about it because everyone else is talking about it. For the last, 5 years or so, everyone was on the empathic kick. Okay. And everyone wanted to say that they were super empathic when they weren't. And, it was a get out of jail free card for narcs because they use all the same energy and, all this stuff. And so it's like, because it was kind of coming at you from every angle, I think you may have aligned with it a lot more than maybe what was authentically going on with you, which was more of the psychic and the mediumistic stuff. However, and you don't really seem very interested in actually diving into your empathic ability and doing much with it. But I am going to say this. Probably in about 10 months out from now, you're going to bump into somebody and it's going to activate it for you. And you're going to not really have a choice. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And so you're going to want to discover more about your empathic ability truly and what it means when it's not bombarded by memes and you know what I mean, the hot topics and what's trending. It's going to be very different, a very different experience for you. Also during that time, I'm going to tell you this ahead of time, you can't save everyone and you're not here necessarily to save anyone. Okay. So keep it in check, be careful. But let's get back to your psychic and mediumship stuff. I think that your psychic ability has really peaked in recent years. I want to say something happened 5 years ago. Something happened 3 years ago. Something happened again 2 years ago. I'm not sure if this was with a sibling or a male. This is a male in your life. I think that it would have all activated for you so that now what's happening is that you are having prophecy in your dreams. You're having prophetic visions, and you could just say it's your gut. You feel it in your gut. It's your gut instinct telling you mostly warnings, and they're spot on. All right. So develop that a little bit more, because sometimes you're like, I don't know what, but something. Okay. Let's get the exact what, when, how. Okay. Let's go get that. Let's go retrieve that information, because if you get a little bit of something, there's a whole lot more there that you can access if you take the time to do so. So sharpen those knives. Okay. Develop that skill. Now, with the mediumship stuff, I see you being able to use your psychic ability, these predictions, with channeling of spirits, so that if you are channeling, more spirits, and again, it's going to increase for the next 2 years and 7 months, but you're not sure. Now, if you're not going to take my psychic mediumship course, you're going to have to figure this part out, okay, on your own. And that is the different types of spirits and how they all have their own separate language, what exactly they're saying, so that it's useful. And it can be that you receive a lot of symbology And so spirit comes through and you're like, what is this? What am I going to do with like a giraffe? What am I going to do with an image of like an onion and a mountain? What am I supposed to do with any of this? Those are all messages. You're going to have to learn that language. And you should be using your psychic ability to assist you with deciphering the messages from spirit. All right. So I always talk about when like there are gaps and holes, because spirit isn't always the greatest at communication. When there are gaps and holes, you got to fill that in. And the only way to really do that is to use your psychic ability, which should be really easy for you. So yeah, lots going on there. I think you could give nice full readings too, especially if you're using something like a tarot spread, like I keep hearing the Celtic cross. Or like morning, afternoon, evening, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to flip 3 cards for the day. You could give phenomenal readings. That'd be really, and with some channeling. Okay. Do we have more testimonials coming through here? I see. How did I know? It's like I'm psychic. How did I know you're going to pop that up? Camilla Herrera says, wow, I have chills. Everything is so spot on. I know nothing of my dad's side. But I do know that I have a lot of native, thanks to 23andMe. And lately it's been on my mind. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. I'm dying to know. Follow up. Let us know. Let us know. But it is a big difference with those feathers going up. It can narrow a lot down, especially with like Caribbean indigenous. Love that. So excited for you. Yeah, you guys really should do your DNA testing. Okay. You think you have a little drop of any intuitive intelligence, do your DNA testing. I just put a video out on this today. If you're Black, if you're gay, which is going to show up in DNA testing, of course, but if you're LGBTQ trans in any way, okay, you do have an increase. But if you're Black, if you're marginalized in any way, but if you are Native, you may not even know that you're Native. Irish have it, Latinos have it. Okay, it's ridiculous. In some bloodlines, it is very thick. All right, we're going to move on to another one. This is Tiffany Williams. We are out of paper. All right. Tiffany Williams. Tiffany Williams. Jaw's popping for you here. You have psychic ability in such a way where this may cause you stress. You poor thing. I wonder if during childhood it was like there were monsters under the bed. There were, demons in the closet. You saw shadow men. You saw faces. This is traumatizing, especially if you were raised in a situation where they were always like negating you. Well, that's not real, or don't talk about that, or this or that. You may have had really strong connections to your imaginary friends who were actually your guides also. So maybe you kept an imaginary friend around a little bit longer than a lot of kids were allowed to, because we were supposed to be ashamed of that once we entered into kindergarten, Yeah, you definitely had a lot of darker energies coming, and you were seen as a bright, shining light. This is mediumistic and empathic ability, really. And when darker, negative, lower energies see light, they see it as a food source. So think of Monsters, Inc. Okay, Monsters, Inc., the Disney cartoon. And if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Okay, so what happens there is that they go into the kid's room at night, they scare the child, and then they bottle the child's fear. And that is a source of energy to light up their entire city, their entire town, as like electricity. And that's literally how it works. Okay. So it's that paranormal activity will be drawn to anyone who has light, and all humans do to some extent, and they drain it. It's a food source for them. Okay. So you had that going on. You may have also attracted a lot of people over the course of your life, who are drains, narcissists, sociopaths, whatever, right? All the things. vampires in general. And you are, I think, now in a place where you're ready to take your abilities out of that like dungeness, right? Place of despair, that basement low level energy, and pull it up, okay, to ground level, and then build it and go higher and higher and higher and higher. And if you have blamed yourself in life for any hardship that has come upon you, or you wondered if you have bad juju or bad luck or bad karma, no, it's not you, okay? It's this junk that you can attract when you have abilities this strong. And it is a never ending ish show, I assure you. So it's like, where you are now, you want to learn more about the abilities themselves. Thank you for the hearts on TikTok. You actually want to learn more about the abilities themselves. Like you're now at a place where you're like, this is so strong, it's ridiculous. And I'm really curious about how it's working and how I can use it. Also, how you can prevent certain things from coming in. So that would be really smart. The blocking and stuff with your empathic ability. Check out empathic awareness up on the website. The mediumship is really strong with you. Again, always has been since you were a baby. This does run in your bloodline, especially on mom's side of the family. You are able at this point to know what type of healing people need, or like stones, even to give them stones or crystals or healing remedies. If you work in the medical field, which I saw really strong for you. So if you're not doing it in this life, you definitely did it in your last one. I don't have time to look at that today, but there is talk of you being in more of a traditional clinical type of like medical field. Okay. So you may be like, let's just say you're a doctor. Let's just say you're a nurse. You may know what the patient is going to need before you even looked at the file. Okay. Like literal medicine, like what do they need? Now, how does this transfer into giving readings? I would say for you, I would probably start with something like Reiki or doing medical intuitive readings, maybe psychic surgery, doing chakra realignment, doing any type of, healing and energy work where you can talk with them. Okay. Now, some people don't want to hear you talk, so then just keep your mouth shut. But like, if they're open to it, I think most of them are going to want to hear what else you know. And you can share and get more confident in what you're feeling. Okay. You also channel a lot when you do healing. So let's just say, for example, you're doing like a long distance Reiki session on someone and you've got spirits showing up the whole time. Or when they're laying on your table, your hands are up here, but they open their eyes and look and they say, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. I've got hands on my lower part of my leg. Someone's touching the lower part of my leg. That's partnership. You're partnering with spirit in these things. Okay. So when you're giving a healing, there are a lot of other spirits involved in that healing. And sometimes the person feels it physically. This is going to be some of the phenomenal stuff. Okay. These phenomenons can happen with you. And it's all going to be this amazing and kind of phenomenal for you. Because you did the hard work. You walked the walk. You've been through the fire. The stuff you had to put up with as a kid was scary. The stuff that comes to you, including the type of people that come to extract from you, are scary, and you're not letting it shrink you. You're no longer afraid or intimidated, and you're no longer blaming yourself. So that's just some of the ways that you could use it. But that could be Tiffany, is that who I'm reading right now? Tiffany says, yes, capital YES, exclamation mark. Yes. Yep. There's a reason for all of this. And people like to act like, you have magical thinking or, schizophrenia, although a lot of schizophrenics are the best mediums I've ever met. But they want to say that you have some type of a disorder, or that, it's part of the DSM-5 or it's psychosis, or they want to say that this is for entertainment purposes only, or, they want to make it, they want to minimize it. They want to turn it into a problem, or they want to turn it into something that's just kind of like interesting. And it's serious. We should know this language. These were our roots, our indigenous native ancestors. And even if you don't have that bloodline, wherever you came from, they knew how to use this information. It is society and religion and capitalism and the patriarchy that came in and divided us away from all of this so that they could keep the power. And it's gross. Okay. So it's time for us to get back in touch. Tiffany says, in addition, I always thought I had things following me as a kid. Yeah, and that's really creepy. It's probably creepier today to hear you were actually like 100% right, and that was totally happening to you. Ooh. Anyone else have that? I had that as a kid. Just like every night. It's just impossible to sleep. The things I would see, the things that and no one helps you through that. And I was in Catholic school, so I certainly wasn't allowed to talk about that, but it was literally every night. Okay. Really, really hard. All right. We need to love our inner children, our inner child. We deserve it. We need to reparent ourselves in our abilities. Angel Raven 2816 this is just a testimony. She says, thank you. You're spot on. I was afraid of the things I was getting, like jail. I'm thinking, am I going to jail? I've been scared of what I was getting. Like, is this for me? And then the empath stuff you said also, yes. Yeah. So that's a really great point that she brings up. A lot of people are afraid of the visions that they have because we don't always understand that what we're seeing is for like somebody else. So there's a lot of questioning about what is mine and what is others in this. And it's a combination of like, oh my God, is that for me? Is that going to happen to me? And then wanting to shut it down, which isn't healthy. It causes a lot of energetic problems, mental and emotional, physical problems, if you keep shutting it down. And on the other side of that, it's a fear that because you were right, you caused it. Because I was accurate in this prophecy that I had, I must have manifested it. I must have wanted that. I caused that for someone. And it's like, probably not. You would have to be pretty phenomenal at manifestation. It's not going to happen by accident. I assure you. Go try to manifest $1 million for yourself right now and see if you're able to pull that off. If not, okay. No, it's that we see it coming, we read it, and then it happens. Okay. So it's more that than we are causing anything or highly affecting anything. Now, we can affect things in a preventative way a lot of the time. Okay. If it's in a free will zone, we can manipulate and manifest things in a productive way there. But if it's destiny charted, it's going to happen anyway. And there's nothing we can do about it. So there's also, destiny charted future, which we talked about earlier. Do we have any more coming in here? Angela Raven says, I oddly have a therapist. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, and then we have one for Kim Elizabeth is next. Okay. I just want to, after Kim, pop that up. Okay. That comment that she made there about the therapist. Okay. Kim Elizabeth is next. Kim Elizabeth, what intuitive abilities do you have? You have a lot of psychic stuff going on. You seem to pass judgment on people pretty quickly. Not just people's character or lack thereof, but also what they're going to do, what they're capable of, what they're going to do. And a lot of that may have come through disappointment because you spent 5 to 8 years. Holy crap, you poor thing. 5 to 8 years you spent being disappointed by people. Some of them were family though. Not that makes it less. Okay. But some of it was in the workplace. A lot of it was in the workplace. Some of it friendship or love, like a love partner, love partnerships. So, you were there. We don't have to go through it. But anyways, you went through 5 to 8 years where it was like, I'm going to believe the best in people, but your gut was repeatedly telling you to run, to cut them off, that they were going to do something like rank. It was like, I have to give them an opportunity to do the wrong thing. I'm going to trust their words. They're saying they're going to do the right thing. And then you had a bunch of experiences where it was like, you felt obligated to almost like hold space. Okay. And a lot of people have that. You feel something in your gut and you're like, until I have proof, well, what can I do until I have proof? By then it's often too late. No. So you've learned by now, after 8 years of test and trial and tribulation there and being double-minded and going back on your intuition a lot, you learned about how accurate you are. You learned about how much time can be lost and wasted and opportunities can be wasted, right? And how much heartbreak and heartache you can go through because of that. And so now where you are, you're extremely disciplined in paying attention to your gut. I think you're more disciplined than you even recognize that you are. Now, there are still some people in your life you're going through testing phase with. And so it's like, I shouldn't be doing this, or I shouldn't be leaning into this. And you do it anyways. Be careful. I think where you are now, you're trying to get more detail out of that. And that's what you should be doing. So if you're not comfortable sort of cutting people off or setting boundaries or passing certain judgments as you know you need to, but you want that additional information, you're going to want to go in psychically and pull that information. Don't forget, if we get a little something about anything, there's a whole lot more there under the surface that you can tap into if you put in the effort to go get it. The other thing I'm seeing with you is accuracy in, so not only people, but the way people are going to make situations play out, but I'm also seeing timeline. All right. So you're getting better at predicting when something is going to happen. You may have been toying with this. Like, I'm going to predict the weather. I'm going to predict, you know what I mean? How my work week is going to go. I know Wednesday's not going to be good, but all the other days seem a little more smooth, and you find out it's accurate. You seem to be predicting timeline in a way that makes sense to you. This could also be bringing in money. My palm is itching. So maybe in recent, like the last 2 years, but like a year and 7 months more increasingly, and 3 months increasingly, you've been making more money because you've been making more accurate predictions about things and moving in accordance. I don't even know how much you're clocking this. But you should be. Okay. So pay more attention and give yourself more credit for what you're doing. The other thing that comes up with you really strong is level 3-4 empathic ability. So you are able to take what other people are feeling and understand it without them ever sharing with you. You attract everyone. Everyone wants to, tell you their life story, even when you don't want to hear it. TMI all the time. You're always attracting, people in need of healing, maybe even animals and things like this. But healing situations. So situations that need you to come in and bring order and healing and resources or revolutionize them. Okay. So you're getting put in work situations. So your literal paychecks have taken on that tone. And I think at this point you need to evolve. I think at this point you need to say, what else could I do with this so that I'm doing it on my own accord? I'm doing it creatively. I'm doing it on my own schedule. I have the autonomy, the independence to really channel in the ways that I want to. I'm not stuck in a structure that limits me. So I would get into your psychic ability is also really strong here. I mean, I know I talked about that earlier, but if you were to do something like, tarot, Reiki, or just straight up psychic mediumship reads. Now, your mediumship is strong, and it will be getting stronger for the next 2 to 3 years, peaking at 5 years out from now. And you're going to ride that from 5 to 7 years out. So you do need a strong psychic ability to fill in the gaps. I talked about this earlier with someone else. I don't know if you heard that, but like, sometimes the way spirit communicates, it's like, what, and then you use your psychic ability to fill in the gaps. And we do that. Those that are skilled do that so that it's not slow. So you're not spending a year on one message. You know what I mean? It's like, let's go. Let's, you know what I mean? Help out here. Let's assist. So that would help for your mediumship to, move more quickly and have more detailed messaging in it. But you seem to attract a lot of the grandparents, the ancestors, and babies and children, which is a little bit peculiar. Can have a lot to do with people needing to heal from very specific things like abortions or miscarriages, or the loss of a child, or not being able to have children. A lot of women today won't be engaging in that, and there's a limited amount of time to do that. They won't be engaging in that. And we're talking internationally. There will be no more children, basically. So that means that those kids that did want to come through are going to have messages. about that. They're fine with it. I mean, they don't have to come through, but they will still have to do the work with these parents. Okay, so you're going to be one of the channelers for that. That's going to become a big thing as we go forward. Really interesting. Okay. Also Reiki for you. Reiki, if you don't already do it. Chakra realignment, chakra, revitalization of the chakras. Big thing. Very easy for you to do. All right. Thank you. And I did want to go back to Angel Raven had dropped another message here, a testimony. She said, I oddly have a therapist that is telling me that what I'm hearing is my ancestors. You know, there are some therapists really coming out with it lately. I am impressed. I absolutely love it. I had gone to see a therapist who had she had like yoga was going on in the other room. I remember seeing yoga mats anyways, and she had just a bunch of like plants and like I think I saw like a Buddha statue and just some of the things that I noticed in her room about the way she had it. I knew she was going to be the first one I could ever talk to. And they were sending me off to doctors for this when I was 5 and into therapy when I was 5 years old for these abilities. And they always negated me and filled me up with drugs and misdiagnosed me, then would come back and apologize and come up with a bunch of other misdiagnoses. And I knew she was the first one based on the way she decorated her office. And it was an incredible experience. It was the first time I ever talked, you know, to a therapist where I felt like it really helped me significantly. She was, you know, just mildly suggesting things in regards to, you know, meditation and intuitive intelligence in the spirit world and empathic ability. But it's where it's at. And they all need to get onto it or get out of the way, you know, because it's not helping to keep suppressing this. They're doing the damage and they're collecting the cash from it for sure. Missy Calvillo. Missy, what intuitive intelligence does Missy have? I see a lot of psychic ability. I also see weird train tracks. You know what the train tracks are? So when you have train tracks or you live by or you're by water, okay? And a lot of times it goes hand in hand. And or you have a brick house, for example. So brick, train tracks, right? The iron, the steel, whatever it is, and water. These are all conductors of communication with the other side. They also hold stories. They hold energy. They tend to hold also spirit activity, paranormal activity. And what we would say with these is that there's a residual energy replay, okay, that happens at certain designated times, like a record on repeat, like it just replays, and because it was a dynamic event, like a murder or a death or something really great happening. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, a parade or something, a festival, a lot of music or people gathering, ceremonial spots, almost like portals, right? So wherever you have any of these three elements, and sometimes a lot of times we get it all at once, right? Like where I am, bottom of my house is brick, train tracks are right over there, and the water is behind me. No wonder my house is on the haunted history trail, right? It was almost inevitable that it would happen. Now, what happens for someone like you is that you are constantly touching objects and they're telling you a story, or you may be weird about touching objects. This is connected to your psychic ability. You are knowing that certain objects carry energy. So maybe you have almost like, I can't prescribe a diagnosis, but like OCD-like symptoms where you don't want to touch certain things. Maybe when you go shopping, it's like, oh, I can't have that roll of toilet paper. I have to go back 5 or 6. That one's clean. You know, there's nothing on, no one else's energy. Okay. On that one. You could do it a lot with clothing. You may have noticed this as a kid. If like you were in a classroom and they tried to hand you a book that was used by a bunch of other people, or, you know, you didn't have a pencil and it was like, well, take a pencil from Jeremy next to you. And you were like, hell no. Like, I can't touch that. I can't do this. There can be energy sensitivity to objects, atmospheres, places. And this can also mean that when you go by train tracks, you're near water, you know, again, the things I mentioned, or you're outside of even like a brick building, you are going to have flashbacks to what happened there. So it's your clairvoyance kicking in, like you're watching a movie in your head. You can replay everything that occurred. You probably get confused about this a lot, wondering if it's intelligent energy and it's actually something trying to interact with you, but it isn't. It's just on replay. Again, it's residual. So you have residual energy and you have intelligent energy. Intelligent energy is spirits trying to come through and tell you something or participate with you in some way. But residual is just like a record on repeat. It replays. It's all dynamic occurrences. So it can seem very dramatic or traumatic, the things that you see. You could also be really drawn, as these abilities increase for you, to things like antiquing, because they hold, so many objects hold energy or paranormal activity. You could also feel a resistance to that. Like you can't even walk into an antique store without vomiting or getting dizzy or numbness in your face. Okay. It depends. It could be overwhelmed. So there's a lot there that you could work with, especially in regards to storytelling on the past. This is just an example, but one of the things I get hired for a lot, and I really love doing them, are historical tours. So I work with like Explore Buffalo, and I do like, you know, Buffalo double-decker bus tours, and I do like all these gigs where I'll go through like maybe cemeteries, or I'll go through different parts of a city, or I'll go through historical buildings, and the docent will talk about I just at Grey Cliff. Okay, so Frank Lloyd Wright's architectural spaces. So the docents will talk about the history and I will give the storyline of the paranormal activity that is happening there, the old things that happened there, who was there, who's still there, you know, what occurred. These are things that aren't going to be written in the books. These are things that everyone who's there, you know, as part of the audience there, like they can sense it, but they can't define it. And you could be very skilled at defining it, Missy. So I think you need to look a little bit more at what stories you really want to tell in regards to your abilities and how you want to help people with it, because we also have to remember that people's energy tells a lot of stories, right? Past life energy, their current energy from this life, that past, and certainly their future. And so that's another way you could offer healing to people, is by helping them to tell their stories a little more clearly. To be sort of a soundboard, a bit of a mirror. You know, a lot of people are very confused about what they're going through. And it's like, you just have a way of being like, this is what it is. Okay. Filling in the blanks and then knowing what they need. Okay. Which is also part of your empathic ability. Yeah. You can do a lot with this. This could be fun. You could also get into paranormal stuff. We are going to move on to another one. And next, this is a testimony. So Tiffany says, thank you so much. I definitely need to learn a lot. You are welcome. There is so much to learn in this. Absolutely. And Angela Raven, this is also just a testimony here. I'm really glad to have finally sort of talking and meeting you and see how you work. I've had many people I met talk about you. I'm in Buffalo, New York. I don't make much money, so I hope to get a full reading. Well, that's awesome. Yes. Tell everybody I said hi. Yeah. So the school was in Buffalo, New York, like Williamsville, Buffalo area for 10 years, I want to say, maybe more than that. Yeah. So a lot of people from that area, that's kind of where all of this started. Very exciting. And okay, very good. So we'll do last call. All right. So this is the last call. If you want to get an intuitive ability assessment right now, you're going to go ahead and drop your $10 donation. You could drop a specific question if you have one, or I could just tell you what abilities you have. If you would prefer to do this privately or to gift this to someone else, you can go up on my website and click intuitive ability assessment, and I will send you a voice clip. Also, if you need to book a private reading, I do work internationally. It's a simple self-booking system, and I try to offer a lot of different time zone options. But if none of those work out for you, you can always get a video reading. So go to Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium.com. And Missy says, thank you. You just confirmed what I already felt I knew. Yes. And that's how this should be mostly for you guys, is like, I kind of knew that, you know. Tons of fun. Also, just a reminder before we wrap this up, that the registration for the psychic mediumship course is about to close. The class begins February 3rd. If you have any questions about the course, you can message me, of course, but you can also go back and watch the live Q&A on the psychic mediumship course that was just published a couple days ago to my YouTube channel at Ask Ivy the Medium. And there's something else I was going to say about that. Oh, this is the only class I'm teaching in 2026. And because I'm planning an overseas relocation and some publishing, I do not plan to be teaching again in 2027. So there could be a bit of a break. I don't know. Things could change. All right. But hopefully I will see you in there for that. So get in on the class to learn more. Are we good? We good to wrap it up, Kim? Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I will see you guys back here on Sunday for Roots Revival Interfaith. The sermon topic is how to protect yourself in today's evils. So we are going to be talking about different rituals that you can use that have been hidden by society, taken and stripped away from us in protection to deal with some of the really toxic things that are going on in today's world. It is as it sounds. So I will see you back here on all these platforms, 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.